Welcome to Creator's Head Studio. I'm Tom Arcu, feature film producer, director, screenwriter, and novelist.
And I'm John Colton, creator of ColtonComics.com and writer of Paul Bunyan versus Dracula.
In this episode, we're talking about making quality work. And a lot of things are coming up. For example, John, you've made something of extraordinary quality, Paul Bunyan versus Dracula. But at the same time, people are making a big noise that the quality of the new James Gunn Superman film is in jeopardy because the test screenings are garbage. What do you have to say about that?
Let's keep in mind that a lot of this is rumor.
Right.
So it's not verified. It's not like we have proof from,
Hmm.
Deadline or Hollywood Reporter that there were
Ah,
actual test screenings going on.
okay.
This is just kind of internet rumor. And
Okay.
it's kind of gone back and forth from
Hmm.
everything from they were horrible to they were actually great
Okay.
to there were no test screenings.
Okay.
So it's like a lot of things nowadays, it's hard to know what to believe.
Right.
But
Right.
I think there's a few takeaways.
Okay.
One is even if there are bad test screenings,
Hmm.
that's not necessarily a bad thing
No. No.
because there are a lot of great movies throughout the years that got changed
Hmm.
because of test screenings.
Like my
I
short
think there,
film that I just finished recently. Lots of test screenings, a lot of changes, and my mind was expanded by the insightful people who responded to rough cuts.
right. The big ones that come to mind are Jaws. Reportedly, Spielberg cut out a lot of the shark scenes
Oh, okay.
and kind of went more with the suspense angle because
Right, like
the
Hitchcock. Right.
right. The other one that's famous is E.T.
Right.
and again another Spielberg movie.
Oh yeah.
And
Like,
I guess in the first version, E.T. dies at the
ugh.
hands of the government autopsy people that
E.T.
and
No
the
Home, E.T. Dead.
right right.
Okay.
And then, that got a big thumbs down. But I think it's important that as much as we like to see the creative vision of one person,
Hmm.
no man is an island, and everybody has someone who, or some people that they bounce ideas with,
Hmm.
that they make changes with, who they give notes to. I mean, Stephen King
Hmm.
has talked about, how important his editor was to him.
And
I
Tabitha
know
King, his
other,
wife, he
right.
said that his ideal reader is his wife. She reads it. In fact, she's the one who rescued Carrie from the trash bin. So, and
Yeah.
another famous wife who rescued something, Norman Vincent Peale had thrown his power of positive thinking into the trash bin. How's that for positive? And his wife said, "No, this is great." And he, because this was a long time ago, he said, "I forbid you from taking that out of the trash bin." So she took the trash little container over to a publisher and said, "Here's my husband's book. It's awesome. Take a look." Of course, back in that time, she would not say awesome, but
Right.
he was right. And so is Tabitha King. So, yes. And so are you when I show you stuff and you tell me how to make it better. So now let's switch. Paul Bunyan versus Dracula, your process, and what can readers of this glorious new book, what are they going to get from this?
I made changes along the way,
Hmm.
and I feel like the feedback that I got really helped me craft a story where all the characters are three-dimensional.
Excellent.
We got motivations from the villain's point of view also.
Ah, oh,
And
good.
yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say Dracula might be the hero, but
Okay.
you'll understand where he's coming from and
Mhm.
why he's doing what he's doing
Right.
and how it could be justified from his point of view, even though he is at the same time a horrible monster and a
Mhm.
force of nature.
Right, right. So here's a classic idea. The screenwriter of Alien, Dan O'Bannon, also he was a screenwriter for a Roy Scheider film about helicopters, Blue Thunder. He said that a great script is an argument between two sides, usually represented by the protagonist and the antagonist. So it's an argument. So is there kind of a thematic argument between Paul Bunyan and Dracula?
There is. I never start off a story with kind of a message
Right.
goal in mind. my rule is always first try to entertain
Excellent.
and make it an action-packed, edge of your seat type story.
Right, right.
But while going through that process, you're going to find some things that kind of do become a message. And a
Hmm.
lot of that I want to leave for the readers to discover for themselves.
Right.
But if I was going to give an indication of what I felt like it was, in Dracula, we kind of have the villain from the old world,
Ah.
and Paul Bunyan is the tall tale and folklore
Hmm.
from the new world.
Right.
And so you not only have a clash of characters, but
Hmm.
a clash of ideals and values
There you go.
within that larger fight.
Right. And here's the thing that we've noticed in our own screenwriting is that you don't start with the theme, you find the theme as you're creating this. What is it that energizes someone to want to get Paul Bunyan versus Dracula?
The oldest question in comics, who would win,
Okay.
right?
Excellent.
And the Thing versus the Hulk, Hulk
Right.
versus Thor, Thor versus Superman.
Superman
And
versus Spider-Man, which I
right.
remember for decades. Yes.
Yeah. And then there was the Hulk versus Batman. And this might be a little bit more similar to that.
Okay.
And that Dracula, of course, was the first Batman.
Right.
And he is physically formidable
Hmm.
against us mortals,
Right.
definitely.
Sure.
But against a Hulk like Paul Bunyan,
Hmm.
maybe a little less so. It kind of becomes a battle of brain versus brawn,
Ah.
or psychology and hypnotism
Mm.
versus a mass of muscle.
But also a mass of muscle and heart. Now, I had the opportunity to see parts of this as it was growing. You've done something with Paul Bunyan where I go, I'm in, because I have only known Paul Bunyan as this mythic character who's tall and has a buddy that's a blue ox. That's all I knew.
Right.
But you have added to this mythic story so that we go, oh my gosh, Paul Bunyan has a heart, and he's been through something that makes him deeper and stronger, but also makes you care about him. And that's why I would just toss that in, is that if someone is considering getting this comic, getting this number one, the first issue, that they want to be in on something great because it's storytelling and it's awesome characterization.
Yeah,
And
well, I think that was part of the hook for me as well as a writer, is
ah,
I had to come up with a way that he could be a Rocky type character
oh,
and that
excellent,
we want to see him do good things.
excellent.
And the first calculation in that was I had to make him smaller
Oh,
because, in the stories,
hmm,
it's like Paul Bunyan dropped his axe and was dragging it behind him. And that's how the Grand Canyon got carved. I can't have a 10,000-foot man
right.
fight Dracula. It's
Okay,
someone fighting a mosquito. It's like, yeah,
okay.
he sucks blood, but so what? I took some inspiration from Game of Thrones
Ah,
because they had giants on that show,
hmm.
and they were about 12 to 18 feet high.
Oh, okay.
And I started doing some research into Goliath, make him a formidable opponent,
Right.
but just a formidable opponent, not a literal mountain-sized person
Okay.
who's going to squash everything he walks on. And then
Right.
the second thing was to make him human and
Ah,
relatable. And
yes.
and
And you
that's
do
that's the
that.
part that you're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. When you start with a project, and like I said, I just finished a short film and it's related to the passing of my mother. And so I'm coming from a very heartfelt, strong space. And in fact, I had been thinking about ideas about AI, and it wasn't until the very day that my mom passed away that, pow, that story showed up for me. And I'd like to say that there's three things that we have to think about as we do tests on our artwork or test screenings, because we talked about how there are possible test screenings that have been reportedly going bad. So, how does one get feedback, and how does one also protect the original vision? So, the first thing is this: when you are listening to feedback, listen without resistance. When I've been asking people about it, I just listen, I take notes, and I do not interrupt. Even if inside me I go, oh, I don't know if that even means anything to me. but I don't interrupt. So listen without resistance. And the second thing is feel when your heart pushes back. There are times where someone brings an idea to me and they give feedback. And when I feel my own heart push back and I have to keep my mouth shut so I can hear the whole thing that they're saying, and I might say, okay, I'm going to stir that in my soup. But my first impression is, no way, that's not going to be changing what I'm doing. But I just feel it on the inside. Feel when your heart pushes back. And that might be an impression that protects your original vision. Now, the third idea is discover if your original vision changes. Now, that's happened to me on the set of a couple of feature films I directed where the actors and the cinematographer and what's going on the set actually augments, elevates, and changes my original vision. And I'm just discovering that my original vision is being enhanced and elevated. So I say, discover if your original vision changes. And this is how we can best use feedback, whether it's a test screening or whether it's someone looking at a draft of a screenplay or something like that. It's all about knowing your original vision, having some openness to hear, and not shutting other people down. Steve Jobs was infamous for saying, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Well, then no one's going to stick their neck out and give new information because he shut them down. So listen without resistance. Because you're still the leader, you're still the captain. You'll decide what you decide, but you could decide it tomorrow and sleep on it, as the old idea goes. Now, as we come to a close, I am wondering what else is so terrific that you put into Paul Bunyan versus Dracula that you want our viewers to know?
It's an action-packed, it's a fight book,
Ah,
but at the same time, it does have heart, it does have story,
mhm,
and it is well thought out and delineated. But more than that,
mhm.
it's a love story.
Oh,
And that is the ultimate motivation. You talk about
ah,
a force of nature.
right,
It's the stirrings within our soul,
right,
the feelings that we might have for another person
right,
that can drive us to do our most motivated things.
right. And it raises the stakes. The stakes are the highest they can be
Right.
because of the very best that's in human beings.
And I know a lot of people have hesitation these days backing some crowdfunded projects because
Mm.
they back stuff that never showed up or
Oh,
it showed up a year or two later.
ah,
But our first issue is done.
yes,
And
absolutely.
I wanted, yeah, I wanted it to be done because I've been on that disappointed backer end.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
we have 52 pages,
Hmm.
multiple covers.
Right.
The whole thing is fleshed out and ready to go to print.
Yes.
And all we need now is a little bit of support and
Hmm.
some people to sign up for the pre-launch that's on
Yes.
Indiegogo right now.
Excellent. And please see
Or,
the link in the description below
yeah.
and click on it
Okay.
and
Thank
go
you, Tom.
there. Yes. And let's circle back to James Gunn.
So the story from today was that he's mentioned a couple of times that there will be a Batman and Superman together appearance and how he can't wait to show them together in the same movie.
Excellent.
And yeah, that's a lot of fun because
Oh,
those
sure.
are some of the best comic books out there. Even right
Right.
now, there's a World's Finest by Mark Waid and the
Hmm.
art by Dan Mora. It's
Hmm.
sensational. Me and my daughters are just reading the heck out of those
Okay.
every time one comes out. It sounds like it's not going to be Batman versus Superman,
Right.
but Batman with Superman.
Right.
And
Friends.
those have been some of the best stories in comics.
I agree.
Yeah, that could be a huge, huge hit.
Excellent. And I still have a long ago World's Finest. I mean, it might be, a tremendous collector's item at this point because it's from decades ago, but it's beautiful. And it was terrific for me because I started with super appreciation for the Batman. And so you bring the Batman with an excellent version of Superman, and now you've got something extraordinary. Well, we want to thank you so much for being with us, and we are growing, and we really appreciate your support. And please like and subscribe and comment below because we read all the comments and we love responding, and we appreciate you. And my team members always remind me, don't forget to let them know about the merchandise. We have merchandise, which is also another version of supporting us and supporting you, because there's got to be yourself or a creator in your life that has the creator's edge, and we just want to support that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So catch you next time. So remember, here at Creator's Edge Studio, we don't just talk entertainment.
We create it.